The ink is dry, the front office is locked in, and just days before opening day at the Rogers Center, the Toronto Blue Jays have dropped a massive bombshell regarding the future of this franchise. Manager John Schneider has been extended through the 2028 season, and General Manager Ross Atkins has been handed the keys to the kingdom with a massive extension running all the way through 2031. We are standing on the precipice of the 2026 season. The Oakland Athletics are coming to town this Friday, and Mark Shapiro has decided that right now, in the shadow of a 94-win season, an AL East title, and a heartbreaking Game 7 World Series loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers, stability is the ultimate weapon. Let's break down exactly what this means for the roster, the strategy, and the immediate future of this baseball club, because these extensions change the entire complexion of how the Blue Jays will operate over the next half-decade. Looking at the roster moves today and the sheer magnitude of these contracts, every Jays fan knows that this front office is betting heavily on continuity. Ross Atkins, who has been here since December 2015, is now the second longest tenured GM in franchise history. By extending him through 2031 and having President Mark Shapiro already locked in through 2030, ownership is sending a clear message. The rebuilds are over, the window is wide open, and this is the brain trust tasked with bringing a World Series parade back to Yonge Street. But let's get into the trenches. Let's talk about the roster analysis and what Atkins and Schneider are actually working with as we head into this AL East battle. This offseason was an absolute roller coaster. We watched franchise cornerstone Vladimir Guerrero Jr. ink a historic 14-year, $500 million extension. Vladdy is the undisputed king of Toronto, but we also watched the departure of star shortstop Bo Bichette, who walked away in free agency to sign a 3-year, $126 million deal with the New York Mets. Losing Bo is a massive blow to the offensive production and the clubhouse dynamic. You don't just replace a guy who can hit 300 in his sleep. So, how does Ross Atkins respond? He goes out and completely reshapes the identity of this team. He brings in elite starting pitching by trading for Dylan Cease and signing Cody Ponce. He addresses the infield void by bringing over Japanese star third baseman Kazuma Okamoto. From a strategic outlook, John Schneider's chessboard looks vastly different than it did 12 months ago. Let's look at the rotation. You are now pairing Dylan Cease with Kevin Gausman. That is a terrifying 1-2 punch for any lineup in the American League. When you factor in the veteran presence and the sheer strikeout stuff of that top tier, Schneider has the luxury of shortening games. But it also puts immense pressure on the bullpen and the depth pieces waiting down in AAA. Speaking of depth, let's talk about the prospect watch and the Buffalo Bisons. With Bichette gone, the middle infield is the biggest question mark on this roster. The front office had to make some tough spring training cuts this week, sending a few highly touted middle infielders down to Buffalo. In my opinion, some of these prospects need more time in Buffalo to refine their approach at the plate. But the reality is, they are one rolled ankle away from being thrust into the spotlight at the Rogers Center. Atkins is banking on internal development to bridge the gap left by Bo. If the guys in Buffalo can't step up by June, Atkins will be forced to make a blockbuster move at the trade deadline. Now, let's pivot to the fan sentiment and the media pulse, because the reaction to these extensions has been explosive. If you turn on Sportsnet or TSN right now, or if you scroll through Blue Jays Twitter and X, the fan base is completely divided. On one hand, you have the optimists. They look at 2025, the 94 wins, the AL East crown, the magical run to the World Series, and they say, yes, Schneider and Atkins earned this. Schneider took over in July 2022, navigated the wild card sweeps of 22 and 23, survived the 74-win disaster of 2024, and engineered one of the greatest turnaround seasons in franchise history last year. A 303-257 record is nothing to scoff at. But on the other hand, there is a vocal segment of Blue Jays Nation that is highly skeptical of giving Ross Atkins a contract through 2031. That is an eternity in baseball years. The scars of the 2022 Seattle sweep and the 2023 Minnesota sweep are still fresh. Fans are asking, did we just reward a front office for almost winning? The media in Toronto is relentless, and the pressure on Atkins to ensure the Bichette departure doesn't derail the offense is monumental. If Kazuma Okamoto struggles to adapt to big league velocity, or if the patchwork middle infield fails, the media will absolutely crucify this front office for letting Bo walk while locking themselves into long-term deals. Tactically, John Schneider has to evolve this season. With Vladdy secured for life, the offense runs entirely through him. But who protects Vladdy in the lineup now? George Springer is another year older. The veteran outfielders need to produce, But Schneider is going to have to manufacture runs differently. We might see a more aggressive brand of baseball on the base paths. We might see Schneider utilizing Okamoto's raw power in the cleanup spot to force pitchers to attack Guerrero Jr. And let's not forget the pitching management. Schneider was heavily criticized in the past for pulling starters too early. We all remember the Jose Barrios incident. But with a rotation featuring Gaussman and Cease, Schneider has to trust his horses. He has to let his aces pitch deep into the 7th and 8th innings, especially in the grueling dog days of the AL East schedule, where the Yankees and Orioles will punish a fatigued bullpen. Every Jays fan knows that the AL East is an absolute bloodbath. You cannot afford a slow start. Opening day against the Athletics is a must-sweep series to set the tone. The front office has given Schneider the tools: a $500 million superstar, a revamped rotation, and international power. Now, the manager has the job security to make bold decisions without looking over his shoulder. Here is my final verdict on today's massive news. Extending John Schneider through 2028 was the absolute right call. He proved his mettle by taking this team to Game 7 of the World Series. He commands the clubhouse, the players respect him, and he has grown immensely as an in-game tactician. As for Ross Atkins through 2031, that is a massive gamble by Mark Shapiro. It provides incredible stability, yes, but it also ties the entire decade to Atkins' vision. If the Dylan Cease trade pays off and Okamoto becomes a star, Atkins looks like a genius. If the farm system dries up and the team regresses without Bichette, that 2031 contract is going to feel like an anchor dragging this franchise to the bottom of Lake Ontario. But right now, coming off a pennant-winning season, you have to ride the hot hand. The front office has pushed their chips to the center of the table. It is World Series or bust for the Toronto Blue Jays. Let me know exactly how you are feeling about these massive extensions down in the comments. Drop a Go Jays if you are fired up for opening day this Friday. Make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for daily relentless Blue Jays coverage, and I will see you all tomorrow as we continue the postseason push.